Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Inner Views. Today, I'm very excited to be chatting with Yoke Van Dam, and she's a speaker and an entrepreneur and just a generally amazing people connector. So, Yoke, over to you. How did you start your business, and why did you start it?
Hey Melanie, thanks for having me. So my story didn't start in the nicest of ways. I feel like sometimes life forces us into a certain direction. So I was at that stage working for Auto Trader, being a sales trainer, training and coaching all of the sales managers and sales directors across the country. And the shareholders decided that they wanted to retrench. So off went the sales team and the sales trainers. And I didn't expect this at all. So I was in a complete state of shock. And my very new husband, we we were married since June that year, then just said to me, honey, you've been wanting to have your own training business forever. Maybe this is God's way of closing the door and opening the window. Rather see it as an opportunity. You have a small bit of a retrenchment package. Why don't we use that as investment for the business and start setting up the website and all of that? So for me, it was quite a trying period, actually figuring out, do I want this? How is it going to work? All of that. But then for many years, I was very passionate about education and training. And I remember there was this professor of the SAIM Institute, and he spoke about workeracy, the concept of, instead of saying you need to have this elaborate business plan and you need to know exactly who the target audience is going to be and all of that jazz, he said, look at your core skills and see who you could offer it for. So I was like, let me just start there. So I was like, I've been doing presentations, speaking and training for years because I had been doing Toastmasters for about 10 years and doing that for free for people. So I was like, well, I can coach people for that. And then I just started offering that to people. And then I went and I spoke to places like University of Pretoria and managed to get a free venue there and, started offering courses to the students on interviewing skills. And then I was able to offer my presentation bootcamp to help them actually prepare themselves for interviews. But what was then super interesting, what started happening is, as you're there, so you're thinking, okay, the target audience there is going to be students. But what I didn't realize is alumni at a university could mean people that have been working for 10 years doing their masters. It could be PhD students. It could be CAs. So I would sit with a CA mom and her first year student in the same class, because the one is doing her master's at the university or is an alumni. She has been a CA for how many years? She's realized that, wow, I cannot, I can no longer rely on my accounting skills. I need to actually up my leadership skills and my people skills. And that's why this lady actually realized I need to actually do things differently. And then something weird started happening. The lecturers started coming on the course, because they were saying to me, I had two lecturers from the dentistry department, so like the medical campus, right, come over, and they said they are competing against the laptops, cell phones, all of social media while they're teaching. They need to find ways of actually grabbing the students' attention and holding it for that hour. So what was really nice for me is actually even helping lecturers become better storytellers so they can captivate an audience. And, I remember being at varsity and I would do better if I actually listened to a lecturer. I'm very much an auditory learner, so I can listen to someone and I can remember it. While if I'm reading it, it's not the same cup of tea. So I just thought, how remarkable would that be if lecturers could teach in a way that people could actually remember what they've said? Then the retention would be so much better. So after that, I even got schools doing this, engineers, people that were alumni from the University of Pretoria said to me, they have an engineering company, can I come train the engineers? So engineers that have to go and do a presentation in Venice, on forklift accessories, they were saying, they are really knowledgeable with the product, but how do they captivate that audience? They only have one chance a year, and they're competing against all of the other products. How do they get those people to choose their product? So for me, it actually like spread out, them going into marketing departments, advertising agencies. So anyone that had to develop their voice and that had to have higher sales conversion. So that's really how it started, but it went in a lot of different directions after that.
What I find amazing is that you took something that would have been very challenging for many people, retrenchment, and you turned it into an opportunity. And that's a very hopeful story, especially now in this time of COVID, where I know a lot of people have faced retrenchments. So thank you for that. That'll inspire others. Now, I know that a lot of people say that one of their greatest fears is speaking in public. Do you have a lot of people who come to you because of that?
Yes, I do. So I have a presentation bootcamp specifically to help people develop their voice, but also build their confidence, get over that fear. But then a lot of people, after they've done the bootcamp, or some of them just do one-on-one coaching. So I've done work with, for instance, Ian Furr, the old CEO of Sorbet. For instance, he's a brilliant storyteller, gets paid a lot of money for telling his stories. He's written The Soul of Sorbet, and he basically created the entire culture of sorbet in South Africa and taking it overseas as well. But he would have nightmares. So his wife was using me for her beauty therapy institute to train her franchisees on emotional intelligence. And she said to me, don't you know someone that could help my husband overcome this fear? So what is interesting, Melanie, is I studied NLP, so that has all to do with like the patterns of the brain. So if a person has a fear of public speaking, it's because somewhere in your life, something happened to make you now react in a certain way. So maybe it was you were in primary school, you were in high school, and you were asked to stand up and speak, and someone threw you with water. You know how kids are. And now you've created this strategy, coping mechanism in your brain to say, like, I need to protect myself. It's not a safe environment. And then what ends up happening on a psychological level is you trigger yourself to go red in the face, or to start stammering, or to start speaking fast, or to start having nightmares at night, or whatever it might be.
Or just go blank.
You know what I mean? So some of those, I mean, like you're saying, they're going blank. Some of those are literally techniques that you can learn so that you have a backup, so that if you freeze on the spot, you can refer to something, have cue cards, have a mind map, all of those kinds of things. Or even slides could help you. Just bring you back, like, what is my next thing that I need to speak about? But when you're actually sitting with that pathway that you've created with NLP coaching, you can actually change it. So you can completely override that fear and build a new strategy for you to be confident. But that has to be in the one-on-one capacity. But in a group, I also teach people a lot of confidence techniques, and some of them will use it. So like the one guy, so he was a master's student at UB doing his master's in public health, but he was working as a marketing director for a business for 10 years. So he came on that one, and he came on the interview skills one because he said he wanted to change careers. Then he came for a lot of one-on-one coaching. So he works on his strategy, his personal brand, his message. We helped him prep for meetings. We helped him deal with confidence, all of that. And then finally, almost a year later, he actually got exactly the dream job that he wanted and he visualized, but he had to kind of like go through a bit of a process. So everything is not just like, boom, you go on a course and you get the job, You can't go from zero to hero. It's a bit of a process, but for some people, it can happen much quicker than for others.
Do you
So
find it's a repetitive process? Because I know when I was at a business incubator for a while, I did the advanced presentation skills course 5 times before I felt I had it down.
I think the more you can practice in front of a live audience, the better you will get. And if you have a coach or a mentor, or if you're in a situation where when you're doing a presentation, you can get very specific feedback to grow on it, you will see a lot of improvement. So like what I saw, I actually recently compiled some videos from people that came on my course, which showed them in week 3, where they did a presentation. Then during the course, they actually all took a coaching session as well. So then we like broke down the script, completely delved in, worked on their style, all of that, like hectic, okay. Then they delivered at the end of week 6, they delivered again. And you cannot believe that it's the same person. So besides the content that's better, the message that's more clear, the shorter sentences, the metaphors that's used, that it's much more stickier, better structure, all of that. It's just like the way they come across is like completely different, So just for them there, they already had 3 opportunities to present. So week 3, the coaching session, and then week 6, and then they'd had feedback all 3 times. So in those 3 times, there was huge growth. If you just do one presentation and feedback, you're not going to grow on the same level. But on a one-on-one coaching session, you can have dramatic growth if you put in the effort. So like some of the people would come to me and they would just have the script. Others were literally like they knew it off by heart. They were trying different things out and they were like going all in. And then you can really grow from there because now they're actually doing something,
Yes.
So
Yes.
Depends your effort.
Absolutely. I think like with all things in life, the more you put in, the more you get out. Hey? And what are the most common mistakes that people typically make with public speaking?
A lot of them will take a presentation that their marketing department has given them and just use that. So I was doing, one of the ladies that was on my course, she works for a flooring company, and she showed me the slide deck that she had. And then when we went through the design principles, just like slide design principles, all of that, I said to her, can you see how this can't work? And she started changing everything around. So she even did like a green screen, putting her slides behind her. She found a lot of personal stories around the work that she could tell with a lot more passion. So I would say the mistake there is really like thinking that one message that another person has compiled will necessarily work for you. So literally like rework it and make it your own. That's what you need to do. And then also people wing it. So they won't really prepare, or they'll spend all of their time on the slides, hours and hours and hours, but they will never once go through it out loud. They'll never record it to actually hear how their voice sounds, for instance. And then what you'll often see is because people don't do enough rehearsal, they don't know how long their speech is.
Yes.
So they end up either being really short or a long time over time period, and then people get irritated, because then the agenda runs late.
Yes.
And then, another mistake people also make is they don't send the MC an introduction. So if you are going to be speaking at an event, you need to write a short, sharp, and sweet introduction that can really position you as the expert. And what ends up happening is the MC is often reading a CV, and that bores everyone to sleep as well. So like the answer you need to answer in the mind of the audience is, what gives you the credibility to speak on this topic?
Okay. That's very, very useful insights. Thank you so much. That's very valuable for people watching. I appreciate it very much.
It's a pleasure.
So What have been the most interesting events that you've done in the past?
Interesting events. I have done quite a few disrupt HRs. So I attended quite a few of those because I tend to think that HR is a huge chunk of my target audience, you know, people learning and development, all of that. Mm-hmm. So I always want to be speaking where they're sitting. And it's a funky format. So it's an international format, and your video actually goes onto the international website, which is really nice, you know. And they give you need to have wide format slides, and it goes on auto rotate every 15 seconds. So, and you're not allowed to punch your own company at all. It all has to be disruptive thought leadership. So they're also very competitive. There's a lot of people pitching. So very often your ideas won't fall. So you have to like pitch quite a few topics to be funky enough to qualify. So my first topic the idea was more around communication, and that we're all addicted to our cell phones. And you know, if you're working at a company, or if you're in company with your family or friends, put yourself in a way, because otherwise it's almost like they have to compete against your cell phone. Okay, so I love neuroscience, and it was all going to be around those ideas. So the topic I came up with was rehab for digital addicts, and they love that.
Oh, fantastic.
So it has to be short, to the point, sweet, you know. And then
yes.
we had one in March this year again, but that one was a huge event. That was like at the Barnyard Ravonia, really, you know, like massive stage, lights, all of that. And then we had one in March this year again. So I love speaking about neuroscience, and I spoke about the SCARF model, about how do you create a need with clients before, even if they don't think that they have that need. So from an HR leadership point of view, it was kind of like, how do you motivate and inspire and persuade your teams to do certain things, you know, which is what all leaders need to do. Versus, usually I would be speaking from a sales point of view. So you could use it both ways, you know. Then we had another one during lockdown, same format, the same lady arranged it, but it was a women's event. It was called Astute Women, and we were attempting to sell some of those in-house. But what was really stunning for me was they did a whole voiceover with slides on some of the front runners of the female movement, and people that I didn't even know about. You know, and it was just amazing to actually learn about other women and the amazing things that they did, and realize, well, we really have large shoes to fill. You know, and they incorporated a bit of art. There was a lady doing some dancing, and then all of the topics was around things like authentic influence. I spoke about getting rid of toxic relationships, so that was more my talk on codependence, emotional intelligence, that side of things. You know, so it was actually really impactful. And then the other event that was a lot of fun was I was part of a group with two other ladies. Lee Joy, she has the Self-Care Revolution. I don't know if you know about her. And then Lauren Turner. And we basically did her self-care tripod. It's like a resilience during lockdown course. It's online. And that was really phenomenal. So it was quite nice, as we were 3 different facilitators, you know, each doing a section, having breakaway rooms, doing various things. So lots of fun. So I've seen you can actually engage really well online.
So you've done a really wide range of things. It sounds like there's always something new to keep you interested and entertained. Now, you mentioned earlier that sometimes what you say doesn't fall where you hope it will land. Have you ever done a presentation that went really badly for you?
I can't think of one recently, but not in terms of a big talk, but I have once tried out an icebreaker with a group of people, and one of the ladies actually cried.
Oh no.
So that was really bad. So for me, and I had to do a lot of damage repair with that client.
Okay.
So what I had to realize is a lot of techniques, you have to try it out first. You can't just take stuff from the internet and think it will work. And you need to actually ascertain if a group is feeling very vulnerable, or if they're actually strong enough. You need to ask their permission to say, are you okay with like being put down, or being made fun of, or whatever it might be, or who would like to volunteer to be the person that's going to be picked on, or you need to actually ask their permission. So like in the same way, if I train leaders and I teach them, if you're giving feedback to a person, you don't just do it in the corridor.
Yes.
You ask their permission, and you ask them to meet you in office away from other people, but so that they can anchor themselves and be like, okay, I'm going to hear some feedback now. Let me be strong about it, But then you still do it in a cushioned way, where you first start with the good things, and then you get into the areas of improvement. But you need to realize you're dealing with humans, and they're actually very vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think that was quite a big wake-up lesson for me, to see how vulnerable people can actually be, and how well they hide it.
And after that experience, did your confidence take a bit of a knock? How did you come back from that? Or are you just the super confident all the time?
No, I think I realized how much more important preparation and groundwork is than what I actually realized. And that you actually have to go around that. Another example that I can have of you, it wasn't a bad example presentation, but I'll give you an example. So I do work with teams around 5 dysfunctions of a team. And what Patrick Lencioni says is, he says, when teams are dysfunctional, they're very scared of conflict. Yes. So they will actually not tell you if something's wrong. They'll rather hide it because they don't feel safe. So they don't have a sense of trust. Okay. So now we're doing this work with this team, and the HR manager said to me, they're highly dysfunctional, they're very guarded, they're permanently in conflict with each other, a lot of different things. Okay. And while I was doing this, I actually had a boot camp instructor there that was doing funky team build things with them, and everyone's working so well together. And I'm thinking like, no man, everything's going so well. And then by I think day 2, what started happening is people started feeling more comfortable to be real in each other's space. But they hadn't yet learned how to apply the emotional intelligence that I was teaching them. So they were doing debate, but not a healthy debate. Okay. So they started having hectic conflict and things with each other. And I was a little bit shocked. And then I actually realized it was almost like the gloves came off. Yes. They were starting to show themselves. And I was like, well, that's actually really positive.
Yes.
They're not so guarded anymore. They're actually talking about these issues. Now they just need to find the solutions and work around it. You know? So then so after that, I was feeling a bit like, oh my goodness, I didn't give them the results that I promised. But I'd also said to them, you can't expect to bring a team together in 2 days. Like, this is the catalyst of the change. This is the start of it. You can't possibly think like magic wand, woo, everything's going to be amazing. So I went back and I offered them an implementation thing for free. So I did a course around the hero's journey, and the company said to me that if they're keen, they would be willing to pay for them for extra coaching. So that would be the further implementation work, right? So during this thing, I was giving them examples of actually the Lion King. So I was telling them the story of the Lion King with the different acts and bringing it into their team to say, I don't know if you remember in the story of the Lion King, right at the beginning, you'll see, you know, who are friends, who are villains, and you very quickly uncover Scar is not a good person, and the hyenas are not good, and you realize that Simba and Nala are friends, Mufasa is good. You see the good versus the bad, right? But then at the end of Act 1, usually there's some major thing that happens, a near-death experience. So Simba actually went to the elephant graveyard with his friend Nala, and he defied his father's wishes, and his father had to go rescue him, and he could have died. Okay? So I said to them, so in terms of your team, are you in Act 1, where you have a near-death experience, is the Lion King going to end here? Or do you have more lessons to learn? Do you actually want to grow up, or do you want to stay this lion cub?
Yes.
You know, that's like defying your father's wishes. And then they were like, no, we want to continue. And then you like go on with the story of where the evil character Scar then teases Simba, and he actually ends up being put into a life-death situation again, and then his father dies, the mentor. So I said to them, so maybe Mufasa has died. You know, maybe something really bad has happened. And afterwards, so I love using metaphors. Afterwards, many of them came to me and said, we realized that Mufasa has died, but we're not ready to yet to leave the team. So we want to grow. So if you're thinking of the whole COVID situation, you could actually even relate to the different acts of the hero's journey in it yourself. Or you know, when the disaster hit, are you just going to stay there? Are you going to learn? Are you going to run away? Are you going to find new ways of doing things? So for me, I always I think I bring all my courses together. So it's the NLP, I'll bring the storytelling into the emotional intelligence to help them deal with the emotions. So I think we're kind of like a holistic whole, and everything kind of speaks to each other.
So what's clear from this interview is that you truly are passionate about what you do and about the people that you work with.
Yeah, it's actually bad. Recently, one of the ladies, I was doing work with a company for more than 2 years, almost every single month, doing different things with them, from leadership development to EQ to elevator pitches to whatever. And I'd done quite a few coaching sessions with her, and I'd seen her grow a lot. I was so impressed because she used to be very reactive, and she didn't feel well when male figures were dominating. So she actually learned to be assertive, to say no, to put up boundaries, to kind of like find her own presence and her power. So I was like super proud of her. You know, even other people commented and said, wow, we don't know what happened with her, but she's not that same girl that we used to know. Anyway, and then I recently heard that she asked to be retrenched, to leave that company and start her own thing. And I wanted to cry because it felt like someone was leaving me, but they were actually my clients. But I think I do get attached to the people because in a way, you know, if you have clients, they form part of your family in a way. So I really like actually having a longer journey with people than just the ones-off, I'd say.
And that's beautiful though, because she eventually felt so confident that she started her own thing. So it's almost like she brought that journey like way beyond just standing up for herself in front of those male figures.
Definitely.
Now, do you find that that's quite a common narrative with women in business situations, that they struggle with those male-female interactions?
It is definitely common, but across a lot of industries. I was coaching a lady the other day that's in the IT industry, and she works as a contractor, but for Absa Bank. And she was saying to me that just because she is more of a feminine leader doesn't mean that she wants to be nasty like some of the men are. So she still wanted to tap into her power and be assertive and lead the meeting and all of that, but still have her own gentle presence to it. You know, so I think it's about actually learning that there are so many differences in communication, whether it's male, female, if it's different languages, if you come from different upbringings, if you, like, there's so many different filters of communication. I just said to her, I know that you are worried and thinking they think you come from a small little town and you might think your English is not that great, but actually it's almost impossible for them to receive the message in the same way as you intended. You have to keep on communicating until they get it, because it's really, it's really hard to do that. Yeah.
Is it possible to over communicate?
I don't know. I think we should just listen. Listening is probably more important than speaking. So allow yourself to maybe ask more questions than to be telling. And
That's a great
adapting
technique.
your message more to the people. So there's this incredible journalist and radio speaker in America, Celeste Headley, and I've learned so much from her and incorporated a lot of her work in my training. And she says, you should listen to the words of Winston Churchill that said, a speech should be like a mini skirt, just long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to keep the interest.
I love that.
And she also says, like, no one listened themselves out of a job.
Yes.
No one has ever listened themselves out of a job.
Yes.
But what she finds as an interviewer is there's so few people that actually will take the time to switch off their own thoughts and to focus on the other person and to hear what they're saying and to respond to that. And sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's not even just the words. So when, for instance, when you're doing NLP coaching, it's much better when you're actually, face to face with someone in the same room, because you could be looking at their breathing. You could be looking at their facial expressions, their pupils. Like there's so much, the body language, there's so much that you get into tune with them, and if you're listening on that level, what's weird is there's been research shown that if you get more and more rapport with a person, your brain waves eventually sync. And sometimes the person can actually already almost know what the other person is going to say just before they've said it. Not to say that you should rely on that, but it's like you're fully diverging yourself into the world of the other person and you're not making it your agenda. So I think we should shut up more and ask more questions, open-ended questions.
Those are some really, really beautiful insights. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, Yoke.
It's a pleasure.
Now, I notice we're getting near to the end of our time. If anybody would like to connect with you online, where can we find you?
They can go to www.white-connect.biz. I also have quite a few links on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So even if you search for Yoke Van Dam on YouTube, but what I will give you, Melanie, is on Instagram, I don't know if you know this, there's a link called the link tree. So on my link tree, I have all of my links, even some of the latest podcasts, videos. There's some free webinars, so some free downloads, cool tools. So if you like a little tip for the listeners, go and create yourself a link tree.
Okay, how do you do that on Instagram?
So it's not actually on Instagram, but when you get my Linktree link, which I'll give you afterwards, right at the bottom, you could just request to create your own.
Okay.
So you can either create it using an email address, or I think you can use Facebook as well. But then on your Instagram, there's a thing called the link in the bio. So instead of putting a website or whatever, you put your Linktree link. And then every time, so let's say you're now uploading a photo of the two of us because we've spoken, or you've put a funky quote of us or whatever on Instagram, right? And you'll do a little write-up underneath it. And then you'll say, check the link in the bio for the video. Then in your link tree, you would have uploaded that video link to the top of it.
Okay.
So that when people see it. So what's quite nice is you get freaking 5 days a week, upload different content and have all of those links on your link tree. So it could even link through to LinkedIn articles, blog articles, YouTubes, podcasts. So I found I've been interviewed on quite a few podcasts, and then you can't always, you don't necessarily have the permission to upload those yourself on your channels, but what you can do is you can share that link. So if you have that link, and I still get people today that contact me from all over the world and say, we listened to your interview with Leanne Hughes because we spoke about reframing and NLP and how to calm people down and how to do conflict resolution based on that link. So you have those links available, and that one link can actually take people to a lot of different places.
That's an amazingly useful piece of information. Thank you so much for sharing that with our audience today. I appreciate it so very much. Now, do you have any parting words for aspiring speakers out there?
Yes. So I'm doing a project that is happening in September again, called the Power of Persuasion Presentation Bootcamp. And if you go and have a look on my YouTube channel or on my LinkedIn, you'll find a lot of short little 2-minute videos. And what the aim with that is to show people that attraction marketing will actually get people to come to you. So if you speak about the things, the problems, the issues, the risks that your ideal clients are dealing with, then they would be interested in actually engaging with you further. So go have a look at those. And I actually have a free webinar available if you want to engage and see what this bootcamp is going to be about. So I'll give you that link as well. And just in final words, everyone has a story to tell, and everyone can become a better speaker. And it's important to just start. Grab a piece of paper, start writing some ideas down, and go through the process of figuring out what would help your clients, what could be a quick win for my clients. What advice could I give my clients to show them that I do know something? So yes, I'm giving something for free, but they might be interested in having a conversation with me, having a coffee with me, doing a Zoom call with me, which could get me closer to potential business. So what could you do as a presentation, a video, a talk, a webinar that could help your ideal clients? So that is my challenge that I put out for you.
Yay. Thank you so much. It has been really inspiring speaking to you today. You have shared so much wisdom for people watching. I appreciate it so very much.
It was amazing being here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Melanie.
It's a pleasure.